let's quickly go ahead with our first session. The theme being the rapidly growing trend of conversational commerce, and guiding us with this exploration on this topic. First up, I'd like to invite the curator and, if I may say, the session chair of this particular discussion. Let's welcome from Anymind Group, Ms. Rubeena Singh. Thank you, Rubeena, for being so kind with your time and joining us. And joining her would be our panelists for today. We've got Aakrit Vaish from Haptik, Dr. Kushal Sanghvi from Citrus Ads, Prasad Pimple from Kotak Life, Prashant Jain from HP, and Shoumyan Biswas from Tata Digital. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for each and every panelist of ours. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Rubeena, let the conversations begin. Could we have one more chair, unless I would not want Rubeena to stand here with me. So that's not going to be the kind time. And Rubeena, would you like to sit like this, or that's the preferred? Yeah, would that be fine? Yes, thank you so much. Just allow us a moment, Prashant. So meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, remember the hashtag. And Rubeena, if you'd just like to, I know it's not kind if one of our speakers is standing, but if you'd just like to open on the conversation, if possible. Yeah, sure. Knowing the value of time, I think, Rubeena, maybe what you could do is, maybe you'll... That's okay.
That's fine.
If you don't mind. We'll get Rubeena the final chair here. Don't worry.
I get the special one.
Thank you so much, Rubeena.
But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, my lovely panelists. And, I want to just start off by sharing what I was doing last night. And if you know about me, I'm very passionate about my work. And I'm also a very involved mother. And my daughter's birthday is coming up on 29th of November. Juggling work life is not easy for a working mom, so I just realized I haven't planned her birthday party, I haven't got her a birthday outfit, etc., etc. So last night, I had a long day at work. I came back, and typically maybe around 11 p.m. when I got in home after dinner and got into bed, instead of watching some entertainment, I said, let me browse and order some things for her online, right? And all my shopping is done online. And I was looking at stuff, and those of you, who know young children in your families, it's tough to shop for them because they're not standard sizes, etc., and all of that, and in most brands, so it's not so simple. What did I do? I browsed through a bunch of brands. I started looking at stuff. I obviously needed help. What was I looking for? I was looking for a wide variety of selection. I was looking for a certain quality and quick delivery, most importantly, because her birthday is coming up in the next week. And I wanted help in choosing that. And I think gone are the days when you would say that, okay, let me submit my query and wait for business hours for somebody to get back to me. I wanted to buy right there and then, and I wanted help in decisioning on sizes, customization, etc., etc. Right? I think that's what conversational commerce today is about. And I chanced upon this website, Little Teens, and that's where I placed the order. And it really helped me answer my queries at that time at 11 p.m. in the night. I think the point that I'm trying to really make is today, more and more customers are spending time digitally to make their purchase decisions, or whether for products or services. And, they want personalized experiences which are close to human-like, right there and right then. They have very little patience, right? And I think conversational commerce is really helping in that whole purchase journey, building customer loyalty, etc., etc. And there are multiple benefits, and that's what we're here to talk about today. But also at the same point in time, I think it has its challenges as well. Specifically for the brands, right? You have to invest a lot of time, money, effort, because technology is changing so quickly. That is one. And second, because, the data is so siloed, right? When I went to the website, I'm checking out stuff there. Then I go to the social channels, I'm checking out stuff there. And I want that integration as a customer. For brands, it's not easy to build that integration. And thirdly, I'm a real person. I don't want to buy from a bot. I want some human interaction. I want that trust. I want that personal touch, right? And how do you build that is something we are here to talk about today. So thank you, my panelists, for joining that. And with that, we'll jump in straight to some questions, and I'll request all of you to hold your comments, questions till the end. And if we have time, maybe we'll take in some stuff. So, Shoumyan, I'm going to start with you. And, we were talking earlier before the panel that's saying that obviously at Tata, the portfolio is very diverse, the kind of products, services, it's truly diverse, right? From Click to New to FinServe, et cetera, How, and my question to you really is that what are the factors to build a successful, conversational commerce strategy in such a diverse business? How do you do that?
Thank you, Rubeena. I hope all of you can hear me. Good morning, everyone. I think before I jump into that question, I just want to take a few seconds to explain why I think conversational commerce is becoming very important. And I think you spoke a little bit about that, right? If you see India's digital landscape in the last 15, 20 years, the first phase of that was largely driven by disruption around the platform. So people moved from POS commerce to telecalling to electronic commerce to mobile commerce. So it was around where commerce was happening. In the last 5, 6 years, interestingly, from where commerce was happening, the disruption is driven by how commerce is happening. And I think that's where conversational commerce comes in. But why is that happening? In my mind, the reason that is happening is because you're having newer set of consumers come into commerce. For instance, people from tier 2, tier 3 who may not be as well fluent with either English or with e-commerce. And the second thing is what you spoke about. People today do not shop through fixed search. They shop through exploratory search. So you've moved away from utility-driven shopping to use case-driven shopping. So you don't want to buy a shirt from a brand. You want to buy for a look for an occasion, right? Now, both these instances, slightly less adept users who are not yet familiar and slightly more exploratory use cases requires or creates the need for more assistance, more enabling, more nudging, and that is where conversational commerce comes in. Now, if I go back to the question that you asked, right, this essence that I spoke about, the need to get assistance in a real-time, simplified and relevant manner is such a simplified human essence that it cuts across industries, right? So that's the starting point, that the problem that conversational commerce can solve or is trying to solve by definition can actually be fungible across many different use cases. Having said that, to make something like this work in a multi-category diverse setup like the Tata Group, in my mind, you'll have to keep 3 things in mind. These are not rocket science, but still it's very important, right? First is the business context. What business you are in, who's your consumer, and what is your objective, right? Depending on what category you are in, your users are consuming knowledge or information about your category in a different medium. So in some categories, maybe WhatsApp is the primary knowledge consuming medium. In some, Instagram could be. So get a very clear understanding of what your business context is. The second part is the integration context. Now, for a group like ours, where almost all the companies have very clear platforms, very clear data pipes, which partner you integrate, whether they are in sync and compatible with your existing platforms, your existing CRM tools play a very important role. On top of that, many of our companies are B2C companies, so hence you're handling consumer data. So the aspect of security, the aspect of data regulations, that's the another very, very critical aspect. Even the simplest of breach for a company within the Tata Group could be a huge issue for us. And the third aspect is scalability. right? No intervention, no initiative can be successful, and conversational commerce is no exception, unless you are very clear who are you solving for, what are you solving for, and the extent you are solving for. For instance, what metric to what extent, within what time frame and at what cost is what I mean by scalability index. So the business context, the integration context, and the scalability context, if you get these three definitions right, because the core of conversational commerce cuts across industries because of the reasons I mentioned, I think that's the way to have a successful execution.
Thanks, Raman. I think you've raised some very interesting points, and I'll come back to some of them as we go forward in the conversation. I think you've broken it down to make it seem simple, but I think it's far more complex. And Prasad, I want to move on to you and ask you this question, that, the use cases and how you do it. I think a lot of us understand, and maybe from my point of view, is that it's slightly easy in a products business, right? How do you build it out in a services business? How do you deal with that? What are some of the things that you have to think through a little more in detail, especially when you're working with a FinServe product?
So from that particular perspective, the only difference between a financial service product and a physical product is you don't get to get the feel of that particular product, correct?
Correct.
And you don't need that feel of the product at a time of purchase as well. What you need is understanding that particular product well, understanding the benefits well, and you need that trust building journey to purchase that particular product. Because most of the financial products are long term in nature. If I am going to trust a life insurance company for next 30 years of my money, then I think people will take a lot of time to trust that particular brand and that journey. Now, conversational commerce as a concept is not new, correct? I think he mentioned that we all started with a telephonic call to the customers, followed by IVR, recorded calls. The difference in those calls and what we are talking about now is more tech-enabled as well as more controlled by the brand as a conversation. Because that's the most important part of a conversational commerce, that where do you want to take that customer in that conversation. It all depends upon how you are creating your journey. Now, normally when we look at this as a segment, as a platform, we again look full funnel. Conversational commerce works really well when we are at the top of the funnel, building that education, information ecosystem where consumers can come, interact first, and then show the interest for a particular product. Otherwise, for any performance marketing platform we could today talk about, I show an ad to the customer, he clicks on the ad, I take him to a form, he fills in the form, and I start the journey, the purchase journey. But here I give customer the opportunity to engage with that content first, understand the product, get aware about it, and then move into the purchase journey if he is interested. So that's how we generally look at it from the top of the funnel. Second part comes at the bottom of the funnel. Even middle of the funnel is all about the retargeting and engagement. But bottom of the funnel, that's where the entire simplification of the journey from the customer perspective happens in any kind of a financial product. So just to give you an example, now life insurance, we all know that it's not a over-the-counter immediate kind of a product. Right? It takes some time. You need to fill up a lot of information. That information gets processed at the back end and then the product comes to you. But what we have done in our conversational commerce or the WhatsApp journeys or even chatbot journeys, we have broken down sections and we have got those products first, which are simple to purchase. Yes, a lot of things what we ask customer when they are filling the information in a chatbot or in a WhatsApp, we do understand that customers might have concern of sharing the information. So we also gave them the reason why we are asking for the information, because that becomes a very important part to build the trust that my information, whatever I am giving, is going to get used properly even on this particular platform. So there, the entire journey simplification, first of all, bringing a product which is simple in nature, which can be done over a WhatsApp kind of platform. And second thing, after that simplification of product, simplification of the journey. That's where the entire beauty lies. Now, do I see a lot of customers moving from web to conversation commerce for purchase? I would say it's just a start of the journey. Hardly 10% of the customers have moved from that web to WhatsApp. but sheer from the convenience perspective. But that's how the entire ecosystem, how we are looking at it from the full funnel perspective.
I think you shared it beautifully that you have to look at different parts of the journey and see what you can plug in and for what products as well. I think it's important to use it like that rather than try and imagine for a long sales cycle product like an insurance to take it through and through. Thanks for sharing that. And Kushal, I want to move to you next and ask you, like Prasad said that, I think the benefit of using conversation commerce is that, it's tech enabled and like gives the brand far more control. How do you think smaller, upcoming, a lot of brands, how are they benefiting from this?
I think, let me just start by trying to sort of, perhaps understand what is this reason for conversational commerce to happen, right? I think all of us, Rubeena began our journey at some point when we were sort of in the good old days, or even today, we need information, we Google. Yeah, and that's how we just seek it and we go from 1 to Y to Z. I think conversational commerce does that space in that smallest ecosystem where we're wanting some sort of, information of buying something in our mind. Like you said that you were looking for buying a dress for your daughter or something else as gifts or whatever, and you just were thinking around what to sort of give, looking at options, looking at sizes and many things. And your best way to sort of do it was to try and perhaps seek information back. Now, in that process, what's happening is today, given that e-commerce happens in multiple fashions across the internet as a business, right? So it's not just a destination like Myntra you go to shop at or a big basket, but you also shop on Instamart and Instacart, and you'll go to Instagram and so many places because everyone is a seller in some form or the other, right? It's therefore very, I think, the needs and the sort of fulfillment of every seller, every app, every business is different. Someone who's selling pastries and cupcakes as a home baker, I think for her to perhaps have conversational commerce is just about perhaps just even begin her journey to sort of say, I'm making cakes using chocolate and using this and using just certain ingredients, as compared to maybe a company who's as large as Unilever with perhaps 150 different brands, and within every brand, so many SKUs. The challenge is the same in multiple ways for that home baker and Unilever as well, because at the end of the day, the customer will have multiple questions. What he's simply wanting is answers to questions, as you rightly began as well, not with a bot, but with a human personal touch. So when I'm seeking for information basis, a shampoo, for example, and if I get clearly just 2 replies back from a typical bot, right? Don't all of us get switched away? Most often we just realize that yes, we don't want to sort of go on further. But if we get it personalized back, if we feel that there is a human way of sort of someone responding to us, chances are that conversation goes ahead. It's pretty much in our daily lives as well, right? When we speak to people and people speak to us in a manner which we resonate with. So I think what's really happening is when I think this whole space of AI is being spoken about as well, but if it blends into the space of, I think, really making it sound coming out from that smallest seller or the largest seller in a manner which I think fundamentally addresses that question, but not to even immediately try and sell. So I think what's important is understand the customer, fulfill his needs, fulfill his questions, and don't get straight to that sale. Unfortunately, what's happening with the reason why I think some companies don't get it right is after 3 questions, they'll have someone saying, do you want to buy it now? Should I show you options? Should I do this? So in that whole journey, if you're going to be in that conversation, you lost the customer, I think, at point 3 itself. But if you sort of have the conversation, not as a salesperson for that company or brand, then you've got him for life because you're trying that maybe he'll come back the second time, right? Because not necessarily he'll buy the product of the first time itself.
Thanks, Kushal, for sharing that. And you raised a very important point on personalization. And I think, and the humanness of it, right? To put it in context, when you go to a store, the salesperson gauges whether you're here to buy or just like browse, right? And like assists you in that fashion. And that leads me to my next question. And Prashant, I'm going to ask you that question. There are customers, perhaps impatient like me, who just want options and to select and buy, while others just want to browse and they just want to explore for, etc. Different people, different needs, right? How do you personalize the experience through then, this conversational commerce? It's a tough one, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And so let me answer again in the context of, let's say, HP, right? So think of 4 different categories. There is, say, PCs as a category, or PS as we call it, personal systems, right? There is customer objectives within PS which are so varied. There are people buying PCs to learn. There are people buying PCs to work. And then there are people buying them to play, right? And very, very different contexts. You can expect a very different kind of range of questions or even inputs which the customer is seeking. But then if you look at it underlying across PS, printers, peripherals, services, even aftermarket products like ink supplies, what we see is that there is a consistency of the customer context. Yeah. So there are people doing research where they are just seeking more information. It's either use case based, it's utility based. Sometimes in our categories, it's also spec based, it's price based, it's location based, right? And then there's a layer of the category context. Yeah. So I think the first step in personalization, honestly, I still believe we are a bit far away from there. But even through segmentation, when it comes to conversational commerce, which just interacts between these two layers of the customer context layer and the category context layer, I think is a great first step to having meaningful conversations. Yeah. If there is, and again, in our limited experience, once you have, usage-based data and your conversation is enriched by what this customer is actually using or doing beyond these 4 or 5 things, is when it gets interesting. I mean, I think the best way to understand it simply is think of one-on-one conversations. What are the most interesting conversations you have, in your everyday life? There are conversations where the person is truly interested in you and she knows a lot about you, right? And that's when the next question or the next answer is so engaging, because she comes back from your context and says, hey, I know you used to play games in college. Are you doing that now? Yeah. And the conversation is really immediately so much more engaging than being transactional about, hey, do you want to buy A gaming PC versus B? Yeah. So I think that's where personalization will move towards.
No, absolutely. Category, context, and data are the 3 points that you made that I think immediately segues into most of us digital marketers, will lead us to then talking about AI. And Aakrit, I want to talk to you about that. How do you think AI is shaping the future of conversational commerce?
You mean over the last few days? Because the last few days AI has other problems.
I know.
If anybody's seen the news. I think, so we've been in this business for little over 10 years now. And the first ever slide I had made in my life was how there's going to be web, app, and then ultimately the conversation interface that will create a third new paradigm. And for the last decade, we've been trying to chip away at figuring out the right experience, how does the chatbot actually answer questions, ensuring that there are not more people like Kushal who only use it twice and drop off, people actually can engage and so on. And we kept, we made incremental progress all along, but I don't think we ever achieved what we wanted to until 6 months back. What large language models have now enabled was really the big inflection point I think everybody was waiting for when it came to conversational interfaces or AI in general. In April of this year, what we did was we basically said that, look, let's do away with our old ways of building AI assistants and let's go back to the drawing board and use GPT. And we basically use GPT 3.5, 4 and all the other tools. And let's build a brand new sales agent, which is totally powered by a GPT. We started doing that, and we now have 3 such projects, either live or in stages of going live. And one of the most fun things I did I think a month or couple of months back was, I spent one whole day, I clearly have a lot of time. I spent one full day just chatting with these AI agents, trying to break them, and I couldn't. Wow. They genuinely were that aha moment I was waiting for so many years, which actually behaves like a proper sales agent. It's a very high quality conversation. One of them is a beauty brand. If I ask questions like, listen, I'm going to Goa next week. Can you suggest something for my skin that's a little dry? We had a full conversation, end to end. It said, yeah, Goa next week, right? So it's going to be a little cold. It's going to be a little breezy. It's next to the sea. So you need this. And yes, some of it was, of course, our tech that we added on top. But a lot of it was just core large language models that are doing the trick. So, what really held, I think, this entire wave of conversational commerce behind for the last few years was the tech just wasn't there. Now it is. It's expensive still, right? I think eventually it'll become cheaper and cheaper, and that's our job, right, as solution providers, to see how we can optimize this so that it's more cost effective. But now it's there, and I'm happy to send any of you links to play around with them.
I'd love to. No, that's great to know. Thanks for sharing that. And, I'm conscious of time and would love to continue this conversation, but, I'm going to ask one question each to all of you again, and let's have like some, sort of like crisp answers, more like a one-line, two-line, to like a rapid fire. So, Shoumyan, we'll start with you. Aakrit said that it's amazing stuff that what today technology can provide you, but it's expensive. So, when is a good time for a brand to start investing in that technology? And especially, I'm asking you that because you have so many diverse brands at different stages, I'm assuming.
I think there is no one clear answer. I would say that the checklists that we follow is whether you have a right product, and I'm talking from a product company, right product or right service. Basically, that means that the product on its own gets enough trials and enough repeat. Without that, do not do anything. It will not work. Second point that we check is that, look, conversational commerce will work when the quality of the conversation is found relevant by the user. Otherwise, no one will come back, all right? That can only happen if you have enough data to generate about a reasonable sample size of your customer base. So you have to take a call whether you have been able to get to that point where you're confident of the accuracy. And the third point, I think some of the other panelists also spoke about it. See, conversational commerce, the moment it gets used as a push channel, it will start dying. Right? So this is a business where you have to be patient. You have to do a lot of trial. You have to let the machine learn along with you before it starts driving decisions and solutions for you. So you have to decide at what stage you are really dependent, or you can still wait it out and be patient. So I think these are the three reasons on which every business should decide how to scale up or not.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Prasad, asking you next and building on the conversation we were having in the coffee area earlier. Like I was telling you, I'm a digital savvy person, like to do things digitally. But when somebody was reaching out to me, a FinServe brand, to give in my digital KYC through a link, I just refused because I was scared about my data security. So how do you deal with it in the context of conversational commerce?
Yeah, so that aspect is not just for conversational commerce, but for everything. How do I build the trust of the customer with the application he's interacting with, whether it is a web application or chat application or even a WhatsApp application, what we are creating. So normally what works well is first time right. The problem starts happening, that entire trust factor goes for a toss when you're not first time right. Yeah, so from that perspective, our entire focus is on creating the solution which is not going wrong with the customer. It might not be the best visually. It might not be best in class when it comes to the responses. But if it can work well in the initial phase, that will build a lot of trust to share the information. And now ecosystem is also getting more and more integrated. We had earlier with the conversational commerce the challenge of payments. If customer wants to make a payment, he has to click a link which I'm sharing as a part of the chat, go to that link, make the payment, come back. Now with UPI and everything is getting integrated as a part of the chat itself, including the WhatsApp chat where your payment gateway can get integrated. That adds to a lot of customer experience, and that experience brings a lot of trust, and then they start believing it. Otherwise, the kind of articles we also read in the newspaper, in all the magazines, we also do believe that, okay, something is at the risk. Correct? But finally, it all boils down to the experience with the application, and that's where we work on.
No, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, get it right and build that experience. Aakrit, I want to ask you this. What are the challenges that you think which come with like conversational commerce?
I think the patience level of brands is high, I think, but the patience level of consumers is very low.
Agreed, so agreed.
So if you try it once and it doesn't work, you're not going to try it again. That may not even be your fault. So what I mean by that is now we've seen behavior across, I think we have about 350 odd brands, large brands live. So we can map users between brands. So we've actually seen that if one customer has tried, let's say, an experience on, I'm just going to use examples here, but let's say on Kotak Life website, and for some reason that didn't work, they become less confident to try it again on Tata website. Right? So the patience levels, it's funny, somebody was telling me the other day, the first wave of the internet when there were websites, we had a lot of patience, right? Even till date, we use such clunky websites and we're okay with it. Then the era of apps came, we lost patience a little bit and started uninstalling apps left, right, and center. I think conversational interface is even less patience, right? Like once you use it and it doesn't work, you'll go tell 10 people and everybody will say chatbots are doomed.
That's right. So true. Customers are becoming less and less patient. Prashant, last question to you. Just want to know, how do you choose partners, right? There are a bunch of partners providing solutions, etc. So what are the considerations that you have in your mind while choosing the right partner?
Yeah, I mean, I'm smiling to myself, but first the partner needs to have patience to go through my cybersecurity and data privacy processes, right? So people who have that patience and of course the reliable infrastructure to back it up are the ones which kind of go through the forest of individuals you have to go through to get to work with a a GDPR compliant company. See, beyond that, it's just agility. Because for all new initiatives, this is what we've realized. We just learn so much about our own customers. We are supposed to know our customers best. But then a new customer walks in and asks a question which you would have, you wouldn't have imagined ever. Particularly in technology or devices, we are, 60% of our 70 million odd small businesses today are still not digitized, right?
Right.
And they are taking the first steps towards digitization. Yeah, they are doing payments, on mobile, etc., but they are not truly digitized in most of the processes. And therefore, they have all kinds of questions, and therefore, partners who can learn, with agility and be more agile than we are in responding to customer queries and hold us accountable to customer questions, to customer satisfaction, to a great customer experience are the ones I would, really want to work with.
No, thanks for sharing that. I think beneficial for a lot of people here in this room. And last question, Kushal, to you. Can't walk out of this conversation without talking about advertising. So what is going to be the future of advertising in this space?
I think in 2023, Rubeena, I'm going to take you back into 10 years ago, 2013, in a dark state like Bihar, where people don't even necessarily sort of understand language like English and what have you as well. They don't have electricity in the number one place. There are issues there in terms of various things, in terms of from a economic standpoint as well. Farming is one of the largest occupations still as well. It's interesting what a company like Unilever did there. They created this whole platform for conversation among women when their men or husbands went to work. Women have issues of all sorts, but more than that, women like to gossip. They want to know what's happening, what's trending, what's happening who's wearing what we discuss on Instagram today. So for example, which movie, what happened, falana dimkana, and they would speak in their own language, but it was happening all on a platform on a radio. So imagine they actually went in, tuned into a certain time and a frequency from X hour to Y hour to discuss issues of themselves. And through that process, they were only chatting. And that chatting got 70% of all of Bihar's women talking in that 1-2 hours. What was this whole channel created by? A product from Unilever selling one of the largest selling brands of detergent powder, Wheel. They didn't in any manner try and push Wheel in that platform. This entire storytelling happened for almost, I think, about a year and a half. This is a case study in itself and became the Titanium Award for Unilever 10 years back at Cannes. Talking 10 years later, I think what's important is don't, like I said earlier as well, don't push something in the face. But clearly when you're able to see some conversation happening, you can gravitate and understand, right? Someone is really keen. For example, Aakrit was saying that yes, he's, for example, going to go to Goa. He's looking to buy sunscreen or what have you and some stuff, right? And suddenly, after about 8 or 9 conversations, someone says, you know what, the best sunscreen, therefore, perhaps mail, something else, 40% offered, something else, or you already have some points and whatever through all the GDPR norms. He's far happier to buy that Nivea, SPF, and all of those things where also he knows he could redeem it through some HDFC points because that's all happening in that chat. So clearly, I think that's the future, I think, in terms of making sure that it's not in your face. And there could also be those faces of consumers who are happy to see advertising in their face. Don't we all like seeing ads? Or don't we not like seeing ads? But we've been happy to do that, right? We don't suddenly say, for our parents, or even some of us who still get newspapers, we still see the ad, no? On the newspaper. So if for all you care, there could be a brand who says, no, it doesn't matter, I'll put that banner up within the conversational space, for whatever it's worth, saying, I'll, have this GIF and this GIF because that agency sells it to him in that manner, saying, no, this is the best way to create advertising. You have to put it out there and I'll personalize that, which means every ad is also personalized out there. It could be the same creative out there, but it's, for Rubeena is different, for him is different. So even that will perhaps happen. So I think if you ask me, there are going to be multiple opportunities for advertising in brands. It's about the evolution curve of that brand. It's about making sure you follow the GDPR norms. It's about striking the right balance. And at the end of the day, yes, the best way to calculate efficiency is back in terms of finally if someone added to cart, something else, that entire ROS cycle and some stuff. And I think this is the easiest way to sort of get back, right? Because someone bought it there, like Prasad just mentioned, someone bought the insurance thing immediately using UPI, whatever as well. In real time, that it's happened, the magic of advertising.
Great, thanks. Would have loved to take some more questions, but I think we're completely out of time. So I'm going to end the conversation here. So thank you all of you for joining us today and to the audience as well. And I think myself and the panelists are around, so we'll be happy to chat with you one-on-one later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm, warm round of applause. Thank you to our incredible panel. May we request you to please step forward for a group photograph. And of course, as you proceed forward, one of the things, and there were so many key points, what we garnered from this conversation was, of course, why conversational commerce is becoming important, how one would prefer humans instead of bots, personalizing in conversational commerce, the success of conversational commerce, how it can be determined, and advertising, of course, towards the end. Thank you so much, Rubeena, for curating this excellent conversation. And come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's show some love to our panel by giving them a big, big round of applause. And before our panelists step down, Rubeena and all our panelists, we just request you to please come back. We've got certain token of appreciation from Root Mobile, one of our partners, and we'd request our team to give away our token of appreciation. Thank you so much, Prashant. Thank you. Dr. Kushal, thank you so much. Prasad, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Biswas. Thank you, Aakrit, and of course, thank you so much, Rubeena. Cheers. Thank you so much. Thank you for being so kind. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big, big round of applause for our incredible panelists.